What is atheism anyways? According to dictionary.reference.com, atheism is the doctrine or belief that there is no God. Disbelief in the existence of a supreme being or beings. According to Webster's Ninth New Collegiate Dictionary, which you may have at home as I do, atheism is a disbelief in the existence of deity. The doctrine that there is no deity. PhilosophyPages.com says that atheism is belief that God does not exist. Unlike the agnostic, who merely criticizes traditional arguments for the existence of a deity, the atheist must offer evidence. PhilosophyDictionary.org says that atheism is the denial of the existence of God. God does not exist. I think that going to philosophy dictionaries is probably a really good way to discover the meaning of atheism, since it's a very philosophically heavy, meaningful term. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, atheism means the negation of theism, the denial of the existence of God. These are all strong assertive things. The University of Aberdeen's Glossary of Technical Terms also agrees and says that an atheist is someone who believes that there is no God. This doesn't seem like much of a debate, but what about some of the atheist websites? What do they say atheism is? On infidels.org, under the title What is Atheism?, it says atheism is characterized by an absence of belief in the existence of gods. At atheism.about.com, it is defined as not believing in any gods. These are very weak, very soft definitions of atheism. I wonder why.
Atheism. I don't think it means what you mean it to mean. Your words are confusing me when you put it that way. Why make it confusing when you can just say it plain? If you believe there is no God, just come out with a claim. Lack of belief in God makes your stance sound weak and lame. Atheism. You say that my baby's lacking a belief in God. Well, I can say the same thing about my lucky fishing rod. I don't need no big words to prove that concept wrong. So I thought I'd make fun of it, singing it in this song. Atheism. Yeah. Philosophically, I think you may have missed that simply a lack of belief does not make an atheist. I'm not trying to make fun or suggest that we should hate. Just want to keep some other folks from making that mistake. Atheism. Yeah.
You're listening to the Bible Thumping Wingnut Show, the show that's safe for the whole family. Unless your family contains professing atheists.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Atheist Experience, brought to you by the Bible Thumping Wingnut Network, brought to you by the listeners of this podcast and the other fine podcasts that you can find at BibleThumpingWingnut.com. Len Pettis, right from the start here, I got to say, as soon as we go live on Facebook, there are two gentlemen who not always, but seem to drop in every week. Dustin Seegers and James Tippins. We should have them on.
Good guys.
They are always available on a Sunday evening.
Apparently. Dustin Seegers is the man for this job. No doubt about it.
And it would be great to have Pastor James Tippins in as well. It would be interesting. That'd be really neat. Maybe they could take over our spots completely.
Yeah,
and we could watch. We could sit and watch and learn from them. This, like I said, is one of many podcasts on the Bible Thumping Wingnut Network. Go to BibleThumpingWingnut.com, not only for this podcast, like right now you could be watching on Facebook, you could be watching on YouTube. Later, these broadcasts are uploaded in podcast form, and you can subscribe to the Atheist Experience on your favorite podcast catcher, iTunes and all that. So you can get those links at BibleThumpingWingnut.com. And then there are other podcasts, like I said, including Len Pettis's Grappling with Theology, which if you've been tracking us on YouTube, you know a lot about Len, but you probably would be interested in knowing more about him. Or not. But it's interesting. Even if you are not a believer, you would probably find grappling with theology interesting. Sometimes they talk about things. They talk about all kinds of things. You talked about chiropractic care
Yeah,
last
that was
week.
my last episode.
So I want to encourage folks to check that out. And we appreciate you, the listener. We appreciate our supporters. We have about 40 supporters on Patreon who give monthly. We'd like to see that number jump to 50 as soon as possible to help us to continue to grow and to pay for the current expenses. And if you would like to give a one-time gift, that's possible too. Again, just go to BibleThumpingWingNet.com and click on support our ministry, and you can do that. And we would greatly appreciate it. What you're seeing here, what you're watching right now, is when two persons, Len and I, get together and we review this week's Atheist Experience show. And we do so from a presuppositional biblical apologetic framework. And it's interesting, Len, that the scriptures seem to, like the way that we talk about and examine the wisdom of the world. It seems from the structure of a biblical apologetic, call it presuppositional apologetics or just call it biblical apologetics. It seems that the wisdom of the world is just left for foolishness. And what do we find in the scriptures? I asked you to look and share with us in 1 Corinthians what Paul writes.
Yes. Yeah, this I'm getting an echo. I don't know why, but I'll just persevere through it. It's probably on my end something, but nonetheless, yeah. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, starting in verse 18 to the end of the chapter. What Paul writes is, "For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him. God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand signs, and Greeks look for wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. It is because of him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us the wisdom of God. That is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord."
And he follows that up with a sneeze.
I hope I got my mic.
You did. You did. You
When that thing came out, because that was right at the edge there. Woo.
Yeah, that seems to be a clear description of what happens when you really examine the wisdom of the world. When they deny the existence of God, you can see the folly of their wisdom, see their folly of their philosophy, the folly of all their arguments. They just completely fall apart. And that's and you really, from a Christian perspective, it's so easy to see. It's so easy to recognize the truths of that passage by what we do right here. And I say that not in a boastful way, but I mean, we're not. Are you distracted, Mr. Pettis?
No, I know. I'm following.
We're
tracking with. Thing is, we're special,
right? We're not special. I mean, we all we've done is listen and been taught by men who are much wiser than us, and we're able to listen to their best arguments and really make them reveal them as foolishness. That being said,
the way to do that is through the scripture. I mean, that's the beauty of the Holy Writ, is that the fool, the unwise of this world, can read it, know it, and with it refute the wisdom of the world. And that's what we seek to do here, right? As it says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, to tear down every argument that stands in opposition to the truth of the word. So to do that, you have to know the word, and that's what we encourage here, is a biblical apologetic to answer the onslaught of atheism.
Amen. Amen. All right. We have today, what do we have? Jen and I forget the other guy's name. But
Phil
Session. Yeah. We're all the way up to the very first caller for this week. And so I will just press play and we will
need to get him on the air really quick. So, hi, William, you're on the air.
Yeah, right here. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys giving me a little bit of priority. I got to get to work at about 3:30 for, Pacific time. So I really appreciate it. So what I just wanted to talk about real quick was I have kind of a logical proof for myself on why I'm an atheist. And it's not the reason why I started thinking in an atheistic sense as far as rejecting a religion, but it is what reinforces my beliefs and whatnot. And I just kind of wanted to run that by you guys and see if you found it to hold water, I guess. That sound like a good topic?
Okay. Sure, I mean, you don't actually have to justify rejection of religious claims to anyone, but okay.
I know I don't, but it's.
He's going to offer proof.
Right. You don't have to justify your lack of belief. But if you lack religious belief, particularly if you reject the Christian Bible and you reject the God, the one and only God that everyone knows exists, when you reject that, sure, you don't have to explain why you reject it. You just have to explain everything else. You have to justify your epistemology, your morality. You have to justify all of those things, because anytime you apply those things, you are exposing the fact that you know that God exists.
Right. And why would, from an atheist perspective, why would you have to justify anything? If you're an atheist, you wouldn't even enter into the realm of debate or discussion.
Well, because as Matt Dillahunty said, solipsism is stupid. So if you reject the scripture and you go into a hyper skeptical mode and start doing the Dillahunty dodge, you end up in nothing more than solipsism. And you don't want to end up there, because then Matt Dillahunty is going to think you're stupid, even though he himself, when he tries to be consistent, exposes his solipsism. So
now I just happen to have this ready. I didn't know you were going to reference it, but somebody said the Dillahunty dodge doesn't exist. So here's an attempt. This is a video that I made following Matt Slick's engagement with Matt Dillahunty on the Bible Thumping Wingnut Network YouTube channel.
If there's no God, then that which is in the universe must be naturalistically based. It must operate out of the laws of physics and or energy and everything else that's a property of the universe, right?
Not necessarily.
No? So there's something else besides the universe out there?
I don't know. I'm saying that if you give me two options and I say that it doesn't fit under either one, and your response is, what's the third one? You're then looking for a label, and the label is irrelevant. I don't know that they are things by nature.
We move on and see what these things are. Let's run through this discussion and see if we can figure it out.
I don't have an answer.
But is logic a process of the mind?
Well, it depends on what you mean by logic.
Do you experience the laws of logic?
I don't know what you mean by experience. I mean,
Laws, the particular instances of the universals. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. And
I'm just curious about something. We'll get back into this. Are you a materialist, a naturalist, or what?
well, once again, you're wanting to put labels on stuff to be explained. It may be the case that there is no explanation. Well, I don't know what it would take to convince me. I'm going to say I don't have an explanation. And
so what kind of evidence do you think would be manifested from a transcendent being?
I have no. Well, I don't know. And magical pixies have given me a personal revelation that account for logical absolutes in the primacy of reality.
Okay. What are magical pixies?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Tell me exactly what you believe about the universe. Is it all that exists or not?
I don't know whether the universe is all that exists or not.
Okay. Do you presuppose God exists or does not exist?
Neither.
Okay. So about God, what would you say?
Which God? I don't care what you think a true Christian is.
Do it.
So I'm not presupposing a thing. My thing is that I presuppose that these things are true because I don't know what would convince me. And my position is I'm not going to believe anything.
How do you know that's true?
I'm not playing this game with you. I'm not convinced that why they exist is even a cogent question. So I'm not begging the question because I'm not offering an explanation for it. I'm not convinced that why is a cogent question. It may or may not be. We're done. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Yeah. The Dillahunty Dodge.
That was a demonstration of the Dillahunty Dodge. It's interesting, Len. When he was asked if he was a materialist, he said, I don't want to put a label on it. He knows exactly what he is.
He knows exactly what he is, but he knows when you take a position, you have to now defend your position. It's the last thing he wants to do. But he slips up once in a while. He said he was what did he call himself? A practical materialist, or
he said he's not. Oh, what did he say? He said, I'm not this, but I am that. He said, I'm not philosophical, but I am a methodological,
yes, a methodological materialist, which starts with the presupposition that nothing supernatural exists.
Yeah.
So what's called a bigot?
Yeah, I'm sure he defines it a special way.
Yeah. Well, we have a caller on the line here that's talking to Jen and Phil. So let's see. Let's hear this guy's philosophical defense of his atheism.
Proof. He's going to prove atheism.
Yes.
Like I said, it's the reinforcement aspect of it. So I guess the start of it is I'm not planning for the rapture. I'm not planning for the end of the world. I'm not planning for any of that stuff. I just believe that technology will keep on getting further and further along. Is that fair to say?
Based on
the
evidence we've seen so far.
What we know.
Yeah.
The answer would be no. We can't assume tomorrow will be like today. We have no reason to.
Not without assuming induction, right? But on what basis you're assuming induction, we don't know. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So beyond that, going, taking that line of thought, we're going to keep on getting better and better technology. And we know that there is an asteroid in the asteroid belt that is worth approximately 10,000 quadrillion dollars in estimated value. Did you guys know about that?
No.
Not about that specific instance, no.
No, it's called Psyche, and it's theorized to be a proto planet core that kind of formed, but not really. And like I said, it's estimated to be worth 10,000 quadrillion dollars, and I think it's fair to assume that we're going to be able to mine that in the next within 500 years or something like that. Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's
okay.
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, maybe so.
Well, the reason why this relates to atheism to me is if the Bible or any existing theology wanted to blow me out of the water, tell the world, tell humanity, tell the world that resources are limitless and they're at your disposal when you get far enough along. Because if there's something that exists that has that much value, to me, that not necessarily invalidates, but it makes every war, everything that's ever been fought for over resources just look so minuscule.
Okay, I don't follow that.
Well,
I mean, there are populations that have fought wars because the resources in their area were actually constrained.
No, constrained for them at the time. But I'm saying religion has put us into a spot of just repeated attempts at trying to get resources and go there. But if you had the Bible tell you could go to the moon and beyond that you can do so much more, don't you think we would have gotten a lot farther a lot quicker?
Well, that's possible. I mean,
sure, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
definitively.
Yeah,
I like the answers these guys are saying, because maybe, yeah. I mean, everything the guy said, he's like, yeah, well, maybe, I don't know.
What is the misunderstanding about the Bible here in this caller's eyes, Tim? I'll answer. The misunderstanding about this caller, what he thinks the Bible is a humanistic book. He thinks the Bible is for the advancement or for the betterment of mankind, and that's not. While that's certainly part of the Bible, that's not the primary sole purpose of the Bible.
I would say, Len, see, his argument is something that is that valuable to humanity.
Yeah.
Well, if God existed, he would reveal it to us. And I would say that the Bible has revealed to us what's most valuable. Like, what do we need? What does mankind need? All of us know that we're sinners. We all know that we do bad things. within the structure of an atheist perspective, you can't say you can't say that anything is right or wrong, but yet every single atheist listening to this right now knows that they do bad things. That's your conscience. God gave that to you, and you know that you have broken God's laws. And this caller says, hey, the most valuable thing in the world should have been revealed by God. And I'm here to say it has been revealed. The most valuable thing is the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ for the redemption, for the reconciliation, the propitiation. Those are big words. Some of you understand, but basically what I'm saying is the gospel is the most important thing that God could reveal to us.
Right.
And he has.
Right. And that's, you know, when I talk to unbelievers and even many believers about heaven, you know, heaven, the eternal reward of heaven isn't that we get streets paved with gold and, you know, these gates made with all of these valuable stools. In fact, what that is a demonstration of how worthless gold is in God's economy. Okay, it's gravel. In the economy of God, gold is gravel. Okay, God gave us himself, and there is nothing of greater value than him that he could give. So yeah, man, the promise of eternal life isn't that you get to be with your dead pets and your dead grandma and grandpa and meemaw and peepaw and all that stuff. The glory of God is, you know, we're going to be face to face with him. He's giving us himself. Though that is the reward. You know, we get the crown of life, the crown of whatever, etc., that you're given for what you've done here on earth. And what do we do with those crowns? We give them right back. Like, this is worthless. I just want you. And guess what? That's what God abundantly gives. So yeah, that's an interesting take you had, Tim. That's a good word.
Good word.
It's a good word.
Bless your heart.
Yeah,
It's hard to say, and I'm not saying that it's an easy question to answer, but that's if God had a meaningful message, I think that would be at the top of the list for me personally. If there is a God,
that's just a perfect gospel. That's perfect gospel moment
Yeah.
for that.
For me,
or if any God that has ever, you know, anybody who's ever attempted to say that there is a God and he's relayed a message to us, don't you think that's a top one to relay?
There's tons of things that you could say, like, oh, well, you probably should be enshrined in there that, hey, you should probably wait on consent before engaging in sexual activity with another individual. That would be a lovely thing that's kind of set right in there.
There we go with the moral standard of emptiness. Why is consent important? I guess I don't know if I talked about the discussion I had with somebody on one of the threads of the videos of one of these episodes. Somebody was explaining to me that consent is actually a biblical, that, like Len, they thought every time that I said, why is consent a standard? Why is consent a standard? They thought that I was rejecting consent as a standard. But no, I'm saying from an atheistic perspective, why is consent a standard that should be held to?
Justify it. Right. Exactly.
And an atheist made the point to me, said, it was proving to me that consent is something that the Bible teaches. I'm like, yeah, that's my point. But from your perspective, you've got no reason to to hold that.
The whole "don't enslave anybody ever" would have been a pretty high thing on the list.
The awesome thing to have.
There's tons of examples like that, but the reason why the asteroid thing is meaningful to me is because it's not really debatable that that thing is out there and it does actually have that value. And even if it is half that value, that's enough. If you were to just distribute that money across the world, half of it would be $50,000 for each and every person on the planet.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a really interesting idea to me, and I was kind of curious about your thoughts on it.
I wouldn't find that persuasive personally.
Okay.
I mean, it would be an interesting fact. I mean, if we did make it out there and got the ability to start, astro mining or something like that, it'd be
I'm actually kind of
but
skeptical about the actual numerical value, monetary value of this asteroid. So
yeah, but that's kind of neither here nor there, really.
I recommend looking it up. It's an interesting topic, at least from my perspective, from the research I've done. I mean, this might have gone under your radar, but Congress has even passed laws already determining that businesses could mine asteroids well before we ever have the technology to even do it. Like people are looking out for that already, and I think it's just a matter of time before we're able to do that. And the monetary value, the crazy thing about that asteroid is that it's just the tippy top of the iceberg compared to all the other stuff that's out there. And that knowledge to me just makes me think that every theistic worldview on things that have been happening for the last 2,000 years have truly mattered in the eyes of an all-powerful being seems super bunk.
Okay.
I mean, that's. I don't necessarily arrive at that same conclusion, but if that does it for you, I mean, that's cool. But yeah, it's not quite the.
I just wanted to throw that that idea out in the ring, but I know you guys have that atheist caller, so I was just putting that out there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a great day. Thank you for talking to me.
Sure.
All right.
And if you think that caller was bad, the next one is worse. And we're so far behind that I've got to go and refresh it. Those that are watching live have noticed, and even if you watch it after the fact, that many times all you see is the Bible Thumping Wingnut logo.
The devil.
And that is because my system is limited. And for some reason, because I'm running so many things, the video output isn't always able to handle what I'm doing here. So until we get better technology working, this is the best we can do. At least you can hear us clearly. At least it processes the audio effectively. Let's see if David in Arkansas is the person I was talking about as the second caller. Oh no, this is this is Len. This is a theist caller. Dave.
Talk with her. And
I'm skipping Anthony,
Hey,
and
how are you?
if you watched
Hey, how are you?
the Atheist Experience version of this, you know Anthony was a really bad caller. Len, did you freeze, or are you just nope, you didn't freeze.
No, I'm here.
All right, you ready for the next caller?
I'm ready.
Are you playing Words with Friends?
I am not.
But how are you?
Well.
Good, thank you. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about having belief versus like a willingness to claim that you have belief.
Okay.
When maybe you don't. And I kind of just want to hear you guys talk about it a little bit, but I do notice that when I go to church, that it seems like there are a lot of people that I would classify as not necessarily having belief, but just like having a willingness to claim that they have belief. Mm-hmm. And this is really kind of puzzling to me. And I don't quite understand it. And sometimes I think maybe they're trying to like use that willingness to claim it, hoping to like grow to have belief. But I don't know if that's even possible, or I don't quite understand it. And I don't even know if that's the truth of the situation. But I was just wanting to hear you guys talk about, people who like do have belief versus people who kind of maybe go and put themselves in that community, but don't have it, but like just have a willingness to claim that they have it. Or I don't quite.
My immediate question is, as a Christian, if you doubt the salvation of people in the pews with you, why would you call an atheist show and ask for their perspective?
Yeah. I mean, if I were this guy's pastor, I'd probably go to the parable in Matthew, the parable of the wheat and the tares. Say, don't worry about this. Or if you're really that concerned, like preach the gospel to them, talk to them. If they're not believers in the church, this is a church discipline issue. Right? I mean, especially if they're members, this is an issue of church discipline. So you need to confront them on why you think they may not be believers, and maybe there's just something outwardly. But yeah, you're right. Why are you calling a couple of atheists? Look at the look on their face. They couldn't be more bored with this caller. But to be honest, I'm kind of bored with him too. So I can't say I blame him. But I mean, why do you think that they're not believers? That they're just.
I remember.
Yeah,
like what I'm trying to get to.
Just the old like phrase, fake it till you make it type of things. And I mean, some people do employ that method, but there's a lot of, just off the top of my head, reasons that I can see someone that doesn't necessarily have that belief, but that will outwardly, do actions or try to claim that belief. Sometimes it's just about belonging. Depending on your community, if it's a small town, let's say, and everybody goes to this particular church, and you may not necessarily
be a believer, but you don't want to put that information out there. So even though you're not, you go there and you do all the motions as if you're a believer, just to fit in, just to have that community, to be normal and accepted within that framework. And it seems, I guess it would seem strange, like if you don't understand how that might go, but there's people that are in church, you know, maybe pastors that don't believe, but they have to go through those motions because, you know, maybe that's their livelihood. And if someone knew, maybe they might lose their livelihood all of a sudden and not have really any safety net there to catch them. And so there's a lot of different reasons that are there. In my circle, it was more about, I mean, in my mind, there's some other people that I know that are non-believers, but you would never hear them say it. You know, you would never see them post on Facebook about it because they're afraid that someone in the family might find out. And it'll get back to, you know, grandmama or something like that. And
right,
you know,
they don't want to hurt the people that they care about that are in their family.
Right, don't want to lose them.
Yeah, they think, yeah, because the loss of family connections is a real threat for some people for disclosing that they are atheists. So that's a big thing. The other thing is, there are people sitting in the pews who will actually threaten your life if they find out you're an atheist. And I mean, that's a
or your profession, like just being a plumber or an electrician, like, you know, having a trade, or you know, you're an AC repair individual. And if that gets out, then people may not, you know, take your business. Or a lawyer, you know, it can have a lot of implications that are there. And so there's a wide variety of reasons that people would claim it.
Have you ever known any business owners that go to church because it's a good place to find new business? Because I know I have.
Yes.
Good place to go drum up. Hey, I'm the Christian auto mechanic. I'm the Christian roofing guy. I'm the Christian plumber. Call me if you need anything. And then if you go to a mega church, like this was the mega church I was part of, like when you needed something, you called the church, like, hey, is there anyone in the body that does AC repair? Oh yeah, call so-and-so. Yeah. I'm always suspicious of that it's a networking event. But
are there any
I've never heard anyone's life being threatened for any reason in church.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't believe it at all, even if they found it repugnant, you know, it's just, it may be more convenient, make more safe for them. It just depends on that situation, really.
That's probably true. And I kind of meant it more in like the, like internal in a personal way. I get the like cultural or social reasons, but I was kind of thinking more like on the internal of what that person actually thinks or believes, or like what their motivation is with doing that. But I understand what you're talking about with like the, you know, the social stuff. I totally get that.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it too is that if they were raised in a religion and they've been indoctrinated, particularly with, you know, the doctrine of hell, they may not actually believe, but they may be afraid to just come right out and say that because they've been indoctrinated with that fear. And we talk to atheists all the time on this show and in email who they're definitely atheists, but they wake up every day in fear that they've made a mistake and they're going to go to hell. And it takes sometimes years for people to get past that and to come to terms with the fact that this was something that was told to them when they were very young, and it's not true.
Two things. One, she just made a truth claim she can't support. She just said, when you die, there is no hell. She does not know that. I mean, how many atheists are watching this right now who are like, yes, great. Yeah, it doesn't exist. But you know, epistemologically, she just made a huge error.
Yep.
The other thing is, what she's saying is true. When you claim to profess to be an atheist, you still know that you're a sinner and that you do bad things and that you're guilty for those things. And if you've heard the truth of scriptures, you know that there is a hell and it's real. And it may take you many, many years to suppress that truth to the point where you can live with yourself in denial. So some of what she says, I agree with.
This is not going to happen to them. But, you know, when you plant that fear into someone so young, it's hard to shake that.
Yeah. And it's also, it could be, you know, not necessarily about the fitting in portion, but they may have been raised to think that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so even though they're a non-believer, they're looking at this is the right thing. This is what everyone around them has been doing. And this is the way I should be. And, you know, fake it till you make it, you know, trying to trying to put that face on, and hopefully one day you'll actually believe it the way that you used to, or that the way that you think other people around you believe. And so it could be as simple as that as well. But it's hard to get into the frame of mind of someone, and that it's just, there's so much variability in the reasons that people make that decision to just kind of claim it without actually being being a holder of that belief.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's basically all I want to talk to you guys about. So thanks for having my call.
Okay, well, thanks for calling.
Christian fail call. What do you think he learned?
Bizarre.
Huh?
It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. All the circumstances behind this call are just strange. Why you call an atheist program? Just weird.
It's like called up and gave him a softball and let him, bat around a bad, bad question, bad topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting about, what motivates people to stay in religious communities even after they don't believe anymore. And a lot of times it does come down to some kind of social connection or community tie that keeps people there, or family ties are really important. And there's some religious communities that if you come out as an atheist, like if you're in a Unitarian congregation and you say you're an atheist, half the people are probably gonna say, yeah, us too. Yeah. And it's no big deal,
While others are, you would just never hear the end of it. It could be horrific. Whether it's, it's just, there's so much that's out there. So it's
and I mean,
hard to imagine it all.
I know a lot of Jewish people who are just fairly open about the fact they don't actually believe in a God, but they maintain ties with their synagogue because for them that's about culture and family and tradition. And so that is the most important thing for them. It's not, and nobody in the congregation.
So she knows a lot of atheists who are hypocrites. Okay. All right.
Congregation even cares that they don't believe in a God. They actually have lively discussions about this, and it's not a big deal. So, it is possible to maintain ties to a religious community as a non-believer and still, get something out of that.
Sure.
So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and skip over to Stephen's call since it kind of ties in with David's call. So, hi, Stephen, you're on the air.
Hi. How are you guys today?
Doing well. How
we're
are
doing
you?
well. Eardrums are blown out now.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay. So what can we do for you?
So, well, I was wondering, how important is it that your immediate family knows whether or not you're an atheist? I was raised in a Catholic household, and I know for a fact that my grandparents would definitely not be okay with it. And I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not my parents would be.
Okay. Is there some reason you need to tell them?
Well, okay, so I've avoided telling them strictly because I wanted to try to keep the peace.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
Catholic Church has confirmation, so I got confirmed to keep the peace, even though I was on the fence about whether or not I believed at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was about 14 then, and it's just been a slow progression ever since then, and I've come to the conclusion that I don't believe in God.
Okay. Well, I mean, the advice we usually give people is don't do anything that's going to compromise your safety. So if you feel like your safety is at risk, then you shouldn't. If it's that there's some major event, like a lot of people end up coming out as atheists when they have a child and somebody in the family wants the child baptized, or there's some religious ritual that they want the parents to participate in, and that's sort of an obvious point where you say, hey, no, we don't believe this. So there's that, but I mean, absent that, if you are not living in their house, not subject to their rules, they don't contribute financially to your livelihood or anything, you could come out. And one of the things that you have to assess for yourself is what's the risk of that? What can I potentially lose out of this? And potentially you could lose the relationship with your parents. And then the other question is being open with them about this worth the potential loss of that relationship? And if it's not, then you don't come out. If it is, then yeah, you do.
I feel like it's a real point of contention for a lot of atheists if they are raised in a religious household. And I don't know, I was I also have a lot of more distant family that is very religious. Like I was talking on the phone with my uncle today, and he told me he's going to the Creation Museum.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And he's so excited about that, and it kind of breaks my heart because I feel like he's just being misled, and it's not good for him.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a lot of relatives who are they're religious to varying degrees, and we mostly don't talk about my religious beliefs, and that's okay with me. If they ask, I'm happy to have that discussion with them, and we can do it in a respectful way that, you know, it doesn't attack them personally. But, you know, if they decide that they can't have anything to do with me because of my disbelief, then I'm fine with that. You know, it's like, you know, it's not like I'm not actively seeking to sever ties with them. But if they make that decision, I'm not going to go fetal and say, oh, I can't cope because, you know, cousin Sylvester won't talk to me anymore, you know, and I don't have a cousin Sylvester. But
I was going to ask about that. But yeah, it's kind of going off of what I just said, poor Sylvester. But for me, it wasn't so much that, you know, I had to go, you know, sit the family down, you know, in the kitchen, you know, I got something to say, and, you know, I'm a non-believer. Like, it was nothing along those lines. It wasn't so important to me that I had to take it on that, because I knew that, you know, some people would have bad reactions or whatever else. And so I took a more laid back approach to it, kind of what Jen was saying. It's not something that's discussed. It's something that's known, because if you're on my Facebook, it's very difficult not to know it. It's very difficult to miss all of those
you okay, Len?
Volunteer events that get posted on there all the time.
Testimony
So
on the
it's very
atheist
well known,
experience.
but it's just not talked about.
Testimony time.
That hinders
Yeah.
our relationship in that way. Now, if a discussion starts happening about
It's like a support group.
something religious, and, you know, somebody jumps in, oh, that get good Jesus or whatever else that goes on, which may come up. I don't feel offended. You know, I understand that they believe, and, you know, I do my own thing. So I'll eat or drink or whatever else that I'm doing and still enjoy myself, as, you know, they have their own shindig. When we pray together over meals, as we do on both sides of the family, I will hold hands, because, you know, that's, like, to me, that's something we've always done. But as far as the praying is concerned, I don't bow my head. I don't close my eyes. I just look around and look at all the kids that are looking around at me and wondering what's going on and why we're not eating yet. And so, because I remember those days. And so I just get to kind of look around on that side. But it's not this, like, odious cloud that's just sitting over us the whole time. It's never been about that for me. Some people, it is important for them to come out, but it all depends on your situation and how,
Len, how should we treat our friends and loved ones if they come out as a professing atheist?
You threaten them with death. Death threats. That's what you do. Hello? Haven't you been listening? If someone comes out as an atheist, you preach at them and you pray for them. You contend for the faith.
Should you disavow them, not allow them to come?
Well, okay, so if my daughter came out as an atheist, for example, if such a thing were to happen to me, would I disavow my daughter? No, probably not. I mean, but
probably.
I mean, the scripture requires a level of separation from those who don't believe, right? What fellowship does light have with darkness? You know, so there is a degree of separation believers have to have with the unbelieving world. That doesn't mean a complete breaking off of relationship 100%, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a degree of separation that needs to happen, and I think for everybody that's a little bit different. You know, when, like, for example, in the church, like, this is the whole point of church discipline, right? Is to put them outside of the body, to turn them over to Satan for the destruction of their flesh, right? That's within the church body. Now, how does that work within our families? You know, and here's the other thing too, is church discipline is done when there is egregious, unrepentant sin, right? So certainly coming out as an atheist would be
we're just assuming that if they're coming out as an atheist, then they wouldn't be attending church.
right.
Okay.
So we're talking about within the family, right? Within the structure of the family.
you made it the structure of the you made it I guess they're talking about families, so
right. That's why I'm trying to track with the conversation here.
I think that's an interesting question, and I'm actually surprised by your answer.
Which answer?
Because I've never personally considered changing the relationship because one of my family members was a professing atheist. Like I have a relative who is a professing atheist, and I don't treat that person any different than I do one of their siblings who is not an atheist, is either a Christian or a deist. Depends on the day. I don't treat them any different. They're not like what would you say they can't come to? Like family get-togethers or picnic?
It's not necessarily what they can or can't come to, but what are you willing to attend, you know? So if they're atheists and they're getting married in a church, you going?
Yes.
So how is that different than, for example, taking part in a homosexual wedding ceremony?
I don't know.
There are things we have to wrestle through, aren't they?
I've never wrestled through them, to be honest with you. I've never thought of that. I would not go to a gay wedding, but I would go to a wedding where one of the or both people were professing atheists.
Okay, why? What's fundamentally
You've got me. I've honestly never thought through it in my life.
If they're both taking place in a church, right? Let's say they haven't come out to their family. Mom and dad are Lutherans, and we're going to the Lutheran church I grew up in to get married, and you know, this is just family tradition or whatever, and we're going to do this because mom and dad are paying for it, and we want them to. Should you take part in that? Is there something blasphemous about that ceremony?
I would say marriage is a institution given by God, and whether they realize or submit to that God, they are doing a practice that God has laid out for us.
Sure. Agreed.
And I would support them in doing that.
Okay.
As God has ordained male and female.
Okay.
But those are some deep questions.
By the way, I'm not saying
that's something you
wouldn't.
should do on grappling with theology. You should grapple with that.
That would be a good one because, you know, I married married off my best friend to his wife, neither of whom are believers. They're not atheists. They would probably identify as deists, but it wasn't at a church. It was on a beach, and you know, I got to preach the gospel to them and 50 or 60 unsaved people. You know, so that was the opportunity that I took. In that, by the way, with their permission, they knew exactly what they were getting when they asked me to do it. So there were no pretenses or, you know, there were
surprises,
no bait and switches or anything like that. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Why wouldn't, you know, when the scripture says, what fellowship does light have with darkness? It begs the question, should Christians then be in fellowship with atheists? Now, I have an atheist friend who deconverted, former Calvinist, and he's a YouTuber. And I don't talk to him anymore because of these verses. And he convinced me. He was arguing with me. He was like, Len, you're not consistent. And he started to show me he started showing me all these verses about what fellowship does light have with darkness and everything. And I'm like, you know, I'm like, you know what, Mike, you might be right.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him since. That was about a year ago. So,
well, that's a bunch of baloney. You were in a relationship with Mike to talk to him about Christ. That was your main purpose. So what
correct.
fellowship
Yeah,
does
it was.
light have with darkness is to bring light to the darkness.
Right. But as he is, okay, so let's not get it. The thing is that the relationship was also him trying to deconvert me as well. So how many times do I have to listen to his blasphemous antichrist claims while I'm preaching the gospel to him? At what point do you kick the dust off of the sandals?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree with that reasoning of stopping to have fellowship, have time spent with him. And when you use the phrase deconvert, you use that in a very loose sense of the word.
Yes, of course. Right. I still affirm 1 John 2:19 is true. Absolutely. So, but yeah, he was trying to deconvert me, and we talked often. We were talking probably weekly on the telephone, and one day we got into an argument about consistency. And when I say argument, we weren't like going at each other or anything. It was a argument in the sense of debate, if you will. But yeah, he said, he was just like, Len, you're inconsistent. If you were consistent, you wouldn't even be talking to me. And I said, well,
goodbye.
You win. And I haven't talked to him since.
And Mike is an example of somebody who had a heart of stone, yet knew theology so well that he could preach.
Yeah. Well, here he often, his biggest lament about deconversion was that he didn't have anyone willing to have a deep conversation with him anymore. It's funny. He was like, everything is so shallow. Outside of the church, it's all so shallow. No one wants to have any deep discussion. Everyone wants to talk about the score of the Packer game and all this. He's like, no one wants to have a discussion about philosophy. And he said, I'm thinking about joining a Reformed Baptist church just so I can have adult conversations again. But yeah,
the other day we were watching Matt Dillahunty. We're actually trying to make this episode more interesting than what we're being given. So the dialogue between Tim and Len will deepen. Now I showed you a video. I don't know if you watched. Did you watch the video of Dillahunty at that timestamp? I wish I had it
with Jordan Peterson.
No, where Dillahunty was talking about Christianity, and he talked about a Christian. When a Christian, when a person becomes a Christian, God converts them, and he was going at it from a more reformed perspective. And he's saying that when it's an act of God, when somebody gets saved, and then he pauses and he says, well, I guess from that perspective, I was never a Christian.
Yes, I did see that clip.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to that we say, yes, Matt, we were telling you that all along. And you kept saying, no true Scotsman. No, I don't care who you think is a Christian.
Yep.
We saw that.
Yep.
All right.
Sure.
I think I've forwarded it to the next caller, and we'll see what we have here.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
Doing well.
So it says on the call screen thing, you're an ex-Muslim, huh?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
All right.
And Leo is my name, not my name. And
that's fine.
Gotcha. No problem.
I'm from Pakistan, and I came out as gay and as atheist, and I had to run away from there.
Hey, us too. We came out as gay and atheist.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I was talking to when I was talking to the screener. I didn't realize that both of the people that I'll be talking to.
That's convenient, though. I mean, that if you grow up in a religion that, whether it's Muslim or Christian, that you believe that God has revealed that homosexuality is a sin, and that you cannot continue in homosexuality and be a true believer, it kind of follows that the next step is, well, you don't exist. I reject your rules. I'm an
Yep.
atheist.
Yeah.
Which goes
what
right.
What a weird coincidental turn of events.
And it happens a lot. It seems to be the case many times.
Will be gay. I didn't even bring it up that I'm gay.
There. Yes. It's a very gay show.
Yes.
and exactly like you said, that, you know, that what you guys were talking about earlier in the last call is that being gay is not, it's a totally separate, coming out of gay is a different reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can draw a lot of parallels between coming out as gay and coming out as atheist. But I think coming out as atheist, you have a lot more options than you do as far as coming out versus coming out as gay.
Correct.
I think coming out as gay is almost an imperative for, you know, forming healthy relationships with people.
Being happy in your
life.
life.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it also depends on the kind of society that you live in, because, you know, coming out and as an atheist has different implications as compared to coming out as gay, especially if you're living in a Muslim country where actually you can do whatever being gay you do, but as long as you do it behind the doors, you're fine. Right. It's not going to say anything to you. But at the end of the day, it comes down to whether, you know, are you being honest to yourself or not. But anyway, the reason I called is, so, you know, you guys already know a little bit about it, that, you know, coming out as gay, and then I didn't come out as atheist while I was in Pakistan, because that would have been, like I said, gay was slightly easier or like slightly safer than coming out as an atheist, because then everybody has the right to kill you. So when I got here, I'm currently on asylum, and it's not processed yet, and there's a chance that I may have to go back if I don't get an asylum. So that's why I don't want to take my name.
Yeah, I understand.
Of course.
Your name is Leo for the next few minutes.
Right. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is for now. So what happened is that when I got here, I also got into, because of whatever my circumstances were, and I'm not trying to kind of like give myself a pass for it, that I got into like drugs and everything. And because of that, I mean, I stopped doing that, and I started going to the NA meetings. And what happened is, after a couple of years being sober, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? It's like, it's just like, because I kind of noticed that that those programs also kind of work on the same pattern as religion, except that they don't really give you, like, they don't really, I mean, they do have a book. Right. They have like commandments too, which they call them steps. But
and to be clear, you're talking about Narcotics Anonymous, right?
Right.
So yeah,
any of the anonymous 12-step programs.
Right.
So I mean, the way religion makes you believe that, all the religions makes you believe that you're a sinner, and that's why you have to come to Jesus or Muhammad or God or whatever. Same way these anonymous programs remind you that you're an addict, and that's why you have to come to do certain things. And I know that it works for a lot of people, and I know it works for the way religion probably works for some people. But anyway, I decided to step out of that as well. And what happened is that, so these were the only few people that I made friends with here because of this program thing. And when I stepped out of that, they stepped out of me as well. So kind of like the same way that I was ostracized by religious people before, or straight people before, like who thought that I was straight. The NA community friends also kind of.
It's important just to take a step back and examine how.
So I went to the end. I forget who it was. Even Len and Harry Alexander, both of you in harmony with the snoring. I forget.
Around? Oh, there he is. Sure enough.
On AM radio many years ago, this had to have been in the early 80s. There was some guy on AM radio who, be interesting if somebody could remember the guy's name. He would actually play cards with himself while he did his talk radio program. And when people, you could hear him shuffling cards as he was a really smart guy. He gave all kinds of financial advice, business advice, life advice, but he wasn't a Christian in any way. And It was on AM radio, and his thing he would always say was, "What's your question? What's your question?" if you started a sentence that didn't appear to be going in the form of a question, what's the question? And he did it to avoid these types of calls. What's your question?
Yeah.
All right, let's see who's up next here.
You're approaching this and how you're coming across to people. And, you know, like we talked about yesterday on Godless Bitches, it can be a very liberating experience when you realize that you have control over how you respond to things that happen to you. You can't control what other people do.
Sure.
So if people want to get mad and walk away and not have anything to do with you, that you can't control that. But you can control how you respond to that and how you deal with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who we have queued up here. Let's see. Let's talk to Carl.
Interesting.
Line 3. Hey, Carl, you're on the show.
Hello. I'm a little bit nervous now that I'm on here. Hi, guys. I just wanted to relate my experience as an atheist coming from another country, much like the
More testimony time.
This is weird, man. This is
it's like an atheist help group.
Matt Dillahunty has to stop taking nights off. That's all I'm saying.
gentleman before you. I'm from Jamaica, and
after all the painful calls they've gone through,
Jamaica, man.
After all the painful calls they've gone through, they choose this one. Like, this is the best one that of all the calls that are calling in. Let's go with this one.
We can tell that.
Thank you. Yeah, I do keep my accent even though I've been here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. So I don't know if you know, you probably do, but Jamaica is a very, very Christian nation.
Yeah.
And being an atheist or gay in Jamaica is looked upon as you know, as an inadequacy.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was a youth minister. I was in the church up until I was about 19 years old. By that time, I was, you know, full of angst and having sex with all the church girls. But that's the point. I was
I tossed that nugget out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
This is
by the age of 19, I was a youth minister. Okay, too early to be a youth minister. Didn't he say he's gay?
No, I think that was the last guy.
Oh, all right. Hey, look at they're so happy to find out that this youth minister is having sex
with underage girls. Imagine that.
Yeah.
It's a little drawback to the years of going through all those things in my head, you know. But growing up, there's a lot of support in the Black community for it, that if you are a Christian, right? And I felt that, you know, support coming all the way up until I was about that age, 19 years old. Everything was going well, but when I turned about 14 years old or so, I started, you know, having a lot of questions about things. Just reading the Bible, and which I suppose how most people do become atheists, is reading the Bible for what it is and how violent and how hateful it actually is. So being in that country, it's really hard to try to relate it to someone. So we really, you know, hold it in a lot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was weird being that age and having all those questions and just, you know, not knowing who to ask or anything. So going into high school, I met some of my best friends, still my best friends now. And not all of them are atheists, but they, you know, at least listened. And that is an important part, you know, someone just being there to listen to you, to be able to take that load off you.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, you know, I you know, actually, it's an eye opener. It was an eye opener to me, because we Jamaicans have been known to kill atheists. Jamaicans have been known to kill gay people. Yeah. So you know, that kind of traps you. it's kind of different now, but yeah. So
No, I think he's gay, Len. Somebody asked, who said they were underage? Well, we were making only a slight assumption. He's a 19-year-old working in youth ministry, being 19 and youth ministry.
Youth, right. Youth ministry.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Hope it's getting better.
Yeah. So, as I go, I moved here, and I moved to Georgia, and growing up watching TV and all that kind of thing, thinking that United States is, a very open-minded country, So coming
to Georgia.
No, but from another country, you paint the whole nation as one thing. So coming here, I was like, okay, I'd actually be, accepted. But speaking to my people, as in black people, they have been even more standoffish than anyone else when it comes to religion. Anybody.
Yeah.
So it's weird coming here and it's like, okay, so no support still. Okay, fine. Okay.
So this is exactly why Mandisa Latifah Thomas founded Black Nonbelievers.
Right. I was just about to go there. It's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. As a matter of fact, that's where the original place was. I'm not sure if you're around that area, but there is a chapter there, and they actually have a fairly large chapter that's active on that side, including Mandisa herself, which is moving into this full time. But yeah, you are right. You will find there. I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to stop your story there before you finish. But yeah, there's a lot of resistance that you'll have from other people that are African Americans, and so trying to find that support as an atheist, that it's more difficult to come by.
Okay. I got a couple thoughts here, Len. I don't know about you. What we've seen here in multiple callers is people have a need for community. They have a need to be supported. They have a need to be accepted and loved. And they got that in the church. And I know I'm trying not to bore you, but I see that you're yawning.
I'm just tired.
So listen. We see the professing atheists are trying to recreate a Christian culture. In the beginning of this episode, they had all kinds of announcements about this group meeting and that get together and this support group and this outing where we're doing this community service and we're doing this community service.
Right.
They're trying to like within the atheistic perspective, there's no reason to support somebody else. There's no, you can if you want to, but if you don't want to, so what? It doesn't matter. Within the atheist structure, there's no reason to help anybody out in the community. Like they were talking about feeding the homeless in the beginning of this broadcast. And I would say, okay, you decide to go and feed the homeless. Another person decides to go and beat up a homeless person. Why is one better than the other? There's no justification for one being better than the other within, unless you're adopting a Christian value system, which they do, which includes all the moral claims that they've made.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents.
I'll say it that way. It's getting better, in my opinion. But yeah, there's still a lot of pockets around that. Yeah, it's pretty difficult.
I mean, it's important to note that it's getting better because of the work of people like Mandisa, who are out there working to normalize atheism in a community that's been pretty hostile to atheists, the African American community, and then also to basically elevate the concerns of Black nonbelievers in the secular community that's been at best indifferent to their concerns for a long time. And so it's important work. And the fact that you're in Atlanta is an awesome opportunity because you could participate firsthand with Black nonbelievers.
Oh, he is in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I couldn't see it because it was in the way. But yeah, that is a thing if you're there.
So, yeah. Thank you for that information. I didn't know about
Oh yeah.
That,
Oh yeah. Please look them up.
It's just watching the show today that I really found out about that. And yeah, as I said, I'm new to your show, and I really appreciate that you guys put it out there to actually have a stage where we can relate to anybody. It doesn't have to be black people. It doesn't have to be, you know, we can just relate to somebody that has been in our shoes or anything, you know, like that. And I also want to commend, as I said, I'm from Jamaica, so there has been a huge Rastafarian influence, and there is a radio personality named Musa Baruka, and he was actually one of the people that I used to hide away and listen to on the radio, and he used to really push people to really open up their minds and think more freely than they actually are, you know, just reading the Bible and taking it as law, you know. And he has got a lot of hate. He still does, from Jamaicans, even from Rastafarians, because they kind of try to stay in the biblical sense. They try to match up our history with biblical history, which you can't do. So he was one of the people that.
All right, skipping to the next caller.
Ugh.
Please let it be Derek from Colorado. Or no, where did he say? Derek from Nevada. That would be Josh, the realistic nihilist.
I'll go ahead and take Rob's call here. He's a theist. And Rob, you're on the air.
Good afternoon. How are you?
All right.
Doing well.
So we have just a few minutes left in the show. It says you have evidence for the existence for God.
The ending is near.
What's that?
Mercifully, the end is near. Thank goodness.
A theist with an argument for God.
And I hope that we have enough time to go through it, but I think that, first of all, let me congratulate you on a great show.
Okay, you're burning time.
Okay.
Believe me, we don't have time to listen to your argument.
Yeah, we'll listen to like 4 terrible atheist calls in a row.
Terrible.
Okay. Well, I was responding about 6 months ago. I was watching the show, and Matt or Tracy, I can't remember who, said a quotation that really struck me as true and very significant. And he said, "A God that does not manifest is indistinguishable from a God that does not exist."
Right.
Okay.
And I think everybody has heard them say those kinds of things before. And it really struck me that we ought to have some manifestations that we can point to. And people who've called up, who've tried to present personal experiences or miracles or prophecies as evidence or one-time, any kind of one-time event, that we basically said that really isn't evidence that we can examine, that's repeatable, that is measurable. And that was my motivation to go search for something like that. And I did come across 2 things, and I'm going to present, I can present 2, but I'd rather just present the stronger of the 2 to save time.
Okay.
Sure.
And I'd like to kind of just hear what you guys think about it. And the first thing I had to do was to find which God that we're talking about. And that was immediately a problem because there's so many. And the tactic I took is sort of like what many scientists and physicists do. I kind of simplified the problem, and I said one common thread of most of the gods that we talk about is that they're supernatural of some sort.
Okay.
They have some sort of supernatural elements or characteristics. And I said, all right, so suppose we could make the same statement about the supernatural. If the supernatural does not manifest, then how do we know it exists? So I simplified the problem. I said, look, if I can't demonstrate that the supernatural manifests with the same sort of repeatability and science and all that, then it's silly to consider a deity living within that supernatural. So that's how I simplified the God issue. But the other one now is how do we define supernatural? And I've heard a lot of people, again, on your show, taking a swig at that. And I've come up with another way to look at that. And my proof and my demonstration is based upon that definition. So I'd like to get agreement on the definition and then demonstrate what the manifestation is. That's acceptable. Okay. So it surprises me that somebody hasn't brought these things up already. But anyway, Arthur Eddington, who was the cosmologist who first proved Einstein's relativity theory in terms of measuring the bending of light during an eclipse, had a quotation that I think led me in the right direction. And he said that the universe, he said, quote, "The universe is not only stranger than we know, it is stranger than we can know." And that word "can know" really stuck with me. And I said, okay, maybe that is what he's talking about there is reality, including the supernatural, all of reality, multiverses, if they exist or don't exist, it's not important. And what I thought about was, all right, if you take a circle and you say, okay, here's all the laws of reality, no matter how big reality is, it's in the circle, and within that circle is a small circle about what we know, and the everything outside that circle is what we don't know. Hang on a second, please.
The caller put the host on hold.
Look at her face.
Gotta baste the turkey.
Look at them. They both have that same. Lips are pressed together. Are we on hold now? I think we're on hold.
They're like, well, this is already the worst show ever. How much worse could this be? So go on hold for the caller.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So if you take the area outside the inner circle, that's everything we don't know today. And if I separate that into two pieces, there's things that we don't know today, but in principle, we could know in the future if we had better machines, technology, if we were smarter, whatever. And the other part of that, the things that we don't know are the things that we cannot know. And I said the supernatural has the attribute of something that we cannot know. And I said, okay, so that's what I'm going to be searching for. What are manifestations of something that we cannot know? So does that sound like a reasonable swag at the supernatural?
I think you're spinning yourself up for an argument from ignorance.
Well, so maybe, but let me give the example, and you may be right. So, what I decided.
You look ready to speak.
No, not really.
And well, instead of looking down at whatever you're looking at, you leaped forward and put your mouth in front of your microphone.
Sorry, my back is getting sore in this chair.
You need to get a good chair.
It is a good chair.
You need to quit jujitsu.
Never.
You need to get a real chiropractor that can fix you.
Yeah. I need to see him more.
Is to go look at.
We really should start this show at 8 o'clock. Our numbers have literally doubled in the last 10 minutes.
7? Oh my goodness. Can't we wrap this thing up? Are we almost done here?
What kinds of phenomena might the supernatural, how could we see a manifestation of something that we cannot know? And it's sort of like a shadow. The supernatural would present a shadow on reality, and we can see the shadow. The shadow has a something about it that we would agree this is something we will not be able to understand, and that is a manifestation that falls within this definition. So let me break down now the example that I was calling about.
If I could give commentary that will only confuse the listener even more. Come on, Len.
All right.
He says he needs to demonstrate something that we cannot know. A manifestation of something that we cannot know. Well, from the atheist perspective, everything that they see and experience, they cannot know if it's actually reality or not by their own admission.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You have 3 minutes.
I would say go for it.
3 minutes. 3 minutes to prove God.
That's right. 3 minutes. Because she said in the beginning, we might go longer if we have callers, but this is not a caller she wants to
There's things in mathematics called transcendental numbers. And the most famous transcendental number that we all know about is pi, with the ratio of the circle's circumference to its radius. 3.14. Everybody in high school knows what it is.
She just realized what argument he's going to use, and she is Googling it. You can see her fingers on the computer.
What's interesting about pi is that is absolutely baked into the fabric of our universe, of our measurable universe. Planets have circumferences and radiuses, and pi appears in many, many cosmological formulas, et cetera, et cetera. So pi is a transcendental number. It never ends. It goes on forever after the 3.14, and it appears everywhere in science.
God is pi.
The second
Say that again.
God is pi.
Transcendental number that I want to add to that is E, Euler's number. It's 2.71 ... And this was a number discovered by the mathematician Euler in the 19th century.
His name is Euler.
I've heard it pronounced both ways. Okay, Euler. Euler. And this is also a transcendental number. It also appears in many, many different formulas in our cosmology, in our physics, and in particular, the most famous, I think, use of Euler's number it's the base of the natural logarithms. Okay, so and the third number and the last number that I'm going to talk about is I, which is an imaginary number, and it's the number that when you square it equals -1, and there's no real number that's like that. That's why it's called imaginary by mathematicians, and it also appears in many, many different forms in the universe. So, if I told you that I was going to take two transcendental numbers and multiply them by each other, you would say the result has to be also transcendental because they go on forever. Why would you ever think that you take a number that goes on forever, multiply it by a different number that goes on forever, and have it come up to an even number? And the same thing could be said by division. And yet Euler discovered this relationship of E raised to the pi power times I equals -1. So there's lots of different explanations as to why that mathematical identity is true. People can study it and have studied it since the 19th century. We understand a lot of things about it, but the fundamental point that I'm making with it is that I think that is a demonstration that there is something in our cosmology that's something that means something. This is not a random thing, and we will probably never ever understand what that is. It is just like thinking about what happened before the Big Bang or what's going on in multiverse number 7. It is something that we cannot know why e to the I pi equals a whole number.
What say you, Len? Did he just prove the existence of God?
Well, no. I mean, you don't need to prove the existence of God. The existence of God is self-evident and undeniable because everybody knows that God exists. So we don't need to prove that God exists.
So that's my evidence.
So before,
I'm interested to hear what you think about it.
On the description that you had, you said it multiple times, things.
What's happening?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
From another point of view, Len.
Okay.
Because he's not starting from Scripture. He can't make an argument. He can't make an argument for the existence of God.
There are a lot of unbiblical arguments for the existence of God, but they're unnecessary, redundant, insufficient, lacking, I guess. All those things. Yeah.
That you cannot know, and that was, kind of the basis of what you were researching, and even the same thing you said now that these numbers, we observe them in our universe, and we may never know their mystical origin. It's something that you cannot know. But wouldn't you have to?
You would say that those numbers are what we would expect to see, right? I mean, who's one of the evidentialists that I really enjoy listening to? What's his name? John, the mathematician, Lennox. John
Oh,
Lennox.
yeah.
Really good evidentialist. I really enjoy listening to him. He would probably make an argument similar to that.
I think it'd be more interesting, but yeah, it might be similar.
To establish that that's something that you cannot know versus merely making an assertion that it's just something that we'll never know. That's quite a claim.
No, that's yeah, but that's just for the definition of what is supernatural.
Well,
I separated everything we don't know into these two buckets: things that we could know, that there's no reason why we couldn't learn in principle something. We might never really learn it, but there's nothing holding us back in thinking that we might. And then there's the other thing, that things that we cannot know. And that's just a dichotomy between, how do you create two different buckets for things we don't know?
Well, why do you need two different buckets?
Right.
Because we're trying to define what supernatural means.
Okay, and I don't think you've done that. I mean,
you don't think I've done that?
No.
Define what supernatural is. She's denying knowing what supernatural means.
Yeah.
No.
Well, if the supernatural is something that if it what distinguishes the supernatural from the natural is we have to find things that are repeatable, measurable, and demonstrable.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, if it is measurable, demonstrable, and repeatable, then that defines natural. So what's left for supernatural? So we have to find what is the attribute of any particular manifestation that would make something acceptable as evidence, yet supernatural. And I'm saying that the dividing line is there a likelihood that we cannot know what this really means?
So what method would you go about trying to discern what things you cannot know? What is the method that you use to
that's very hard. That's very hard.
Like it.
And I said it all in 6 months of thinking about.
Watch the Seitan Bruggencate Matt Dillahunty video debate, and you'll find out that one of your greatest advocates of atheism will admit not knowing anything, which would mean that from that Rob's perspective that that would be the supernatural. All right, I think we're done here. To quote Colin Pearson, I think we're done here.
This was painful. This was a painful episode. I think everyone is now dumber for having listened. No, I shouldn't be so unkind, but I think what we learned today is that it's not just bad theistic Christian callers who get through, it's also bad atheist callers who get through as well. This is really not a good program. I don't understand how 3,000 people sit and watch this week in, week out.
It's much more than 3,000. Let's see, 2,587 have watched that so far.
Right, live.
Only 16 thumbs down. Well, no, 16. We only have 5 thumbs down, by the way,
which is a win.
And
if
they have 16.
Down, we
so
win.
Yeah. And 5 of those thumbs down are from my YouTube accounts. Just make sure everybody realizes that. That's a joke. Only one of them right. Now we only have 0 thumbs up right now. What's up with that?
We win.
That's because we have
thumbs up, we win.
That's because we have all atheist viewers. No, it's because our viewers are busy doing apologetics. I think our Christian, how much money came in on this episode? 0 on ours, but on theirs, quite a few. That's Matt's Hicks question. Yeah. So if we have more thumbs up than they have thumbs down, we win. So maybe I shouldn't have given it a thumbs down. Let me take that thumbs down off.
Take it away.
Okay. Now they only have 15. And we have 3 thumbs up. See, this is the game that we play. What do you have of value? Len, that last caller, I would say he might be a Christian. I don't know, but he seemed very sincere in his attempts. Deep thinker.
Yeah, well, sure.
Sincere. Nice fellow. I hope he's a believer who just hasn't come across the right method of apologetics. That could be. Rob in Boston. Email us at BibleThumpingWingnut@gmail.com. We will help you. What else, Len?
Oh, not much. Not much.
Let's see. On last week's episode, boy, they put out a lot of videos in between.
I'm so excited that you guys are here because I.
All right. I lost the ability to do that. Len, that video I made, Matt Dillahunty pwned by atheist caller claiming to be theist. The Matt Dillahunty fans really came out of the woodwork for insults.
Weird. That's
Ladies
weird.
and gentlemen, so I would encourage you, Christians, go and engage with the atheist on that video if you'd like to. I put it out midweek, and it's just a hour-long clip of our examination of when Josh the Realistic Nihilist called the Atheist Experience. As
That's
one of
good.
our favorite, it was one of our favorite moments.
Yeah.
Of doing the show.
We needed him this week to make the show interesting.
What do you think, Len? You want to give up on this Atheist experience?
I've had enough, yeah. I'd like to eat dinner.
No, I mean the whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing? No.
Yeah, you want
no,
to
I
trash
don't
the whole
think-
thing?
No, we don't know. Let's not scrap it.
All right. Well,
maybe we just need to have a backup when the show is awful. We can just switch to something else. Like I saw, there's a Rod, what's his name? Bentley? Todd Bentley. There's a Todd Bentley revival on Facebook Live right now. Just switch to that. But,
oh my. All right. I'm just keeping you is all I'm doing. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry for the video, the way it's coming through, not always seeing a picture other than the Bible Thumping Wingnut logo. You could help the cause by donating at BibleThumpingWingnut.com. If you so choose, that would be wonderful. And then, yeah, go to the BibleThumpingWingnut.com and check out all the other podcasts. Till next week, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.
Bye-bye.